Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Yin practice. A few different props for today. If you have a bolster, soft block, and a couple hard blocks, they'll all likely be handy. If you don't have these props, then anything that you have that's similar should work as well. I'll invite you to get started in a restorative fish shape today. And we're going to set it up with a few different props so you can have it exactly like I set mine up, or if you want to do it differently, then go for it. I'm going to place the bolster lengthwise on the mat with a hard block on the far end just to give me a better angle. If you're tall, then have an extra prop handy to support the head as well. And we're going to set up a soft block right at the base. Especially if you have a particularly plump bolster, this should help soften it for the low back for you. And then as you're ready, we'll come to set up on the soft block and lower the spine down onto the bolster. So make sure that this feels comfortable. And if you're not comfortable using the bolster and stuff, then feel free to start lying on the back instead in more of a Shavasana-like shape. Make sure head, neck, and shoulders are all feeling supported here. Sometimes it's nice to let the head hang back a little bit, so you're welcome to do that as well. Just make sure that if you're choosing that, it feels comfortable for the neck. Arms can be anywhere beside the body or on the body. And as you're ready, you find your stillness here and start to check in for your practice. And as you settle in, notice the breath, notice the body, notice your headspace. And before we move to the next shape, see if you're really comfortable here. If it feels like you need a little extra time here, you're welcome to stay. Otherwise, we'll come to lying flat on the back. So it might work best to roll off to one side, just so that you can push all of your props out of the way. And then come back to lying flat on the back. And just keep the bolster nearby because we'll use that for the next shape as well. And once you've exited, extend the arms and the legs. You might even take the arms overhead and give the hips just a little wiggle here. Maybe a rock of the head side to side. Awesome. And then as you're ready, bring the arms down, walk the feet in so that they're roughly underneath the knees. And we'll lift the hips just enough that you can slide your bolster. You could also use one of your hard blocks for this. And slide it right underneath the pelvis and find somewhere that feels comfortable for you. So it can be more under the higher part of the bum or a little lower down. Generally, I avoid the spine, at least in my body. See what feels best for you. And then once you find that place and it all feels secure, start to walk your feet forward, extending the legs long down the mat. And then see what arm expression complements the shape for you. If you want to take the arms overhead again, go for it. Hands can be anywhere beside the body or on the body. And then just make sure that the knees feel comfortable here. If you have a tendency to hyperextend and it feels like they're locking in a way that doesn't work for you, then if you have your hard blocks nearby, maybe you're supporting the thighs a little bit so that the knees aren't bearing the weight. If it feels like you're having to hold your feet into any particular shape, see what it feels like to let the feet go, let them flop and do their own thing. And here as well, see if you could use a little more time. You're welcome to stay. Otherwise, as you feel ready to, slowly rebend the knees, walking the feet back in. And lift the hips up and move your bolster out of the way. And then lower the hips back down. And you might choose to pause in stillness, feet wide and knees together. It might feel nice to gently windshield wiper the knees side to side for a counter stretch. And then from here, when you're ready, you roll on to one side and find your fetal position. And with the support of the hands coming up to find a seat. And we won't stay here, but we'll swing the legs around to find a tabletop position. And for this, you might choose to have your bolster, maybe the soft block nearby. And you can bring them near the top of the mat. And we'll set up for a puppy dog shape. So from here, bring the hands under the shoulders, and then we'll start to walk the hands forward in space, letting the chest and the chin or the forehead dip towards the floor, and then see where you end up. You might choose to support yourself with your props. So you could have a bolster across the mat. Maybe you're resting the chest onto that if that feels most comfortable for you. Another option with a soft block would be to bring soft block either underneath the forehead or underneath the chin. And you could also use it to support your elbows here. So if the elbows are comfortably on the floor when you're in puppy dog pose, one option would be to bend them, bring the palms of the hands together. And then you can walk the elbows a little closer, maybe walk the elbows onto a prop. There's no right or wrong expression. Find something that offers a nice stretch across the chest. And if you do feel anything that you would describe as pain, then maybe back out of it or choose one of the other options. And any way you like, exit the pose. And we'll meet in a rock pose, a kneeling position, so you can walk the hands in towards the knees. And we'll pause with a tall spine just to release from that shape. If it feels more comfortable to straddle your bolster or to add something between hips and heels, then go for it. Find your stillness. And then when you're ready, you flutter the eyes open. And from here, we'll set up our next shape, a version of hero pose. I'm gonna demo two different options. So there'll be an expression to stay upright and an expression to lie down. Um, I'm gonna talk through the lying down one because that's more complicated, but I'll post a picture of the sitting upright one as well. And I'm gonna use pretty much all of my props for this one just to make it more supportive and because we'll stay a little longer than we would in a hatha practice. So for this one, have your props nearby, and we'll set up similar to what we did for that opening shape. And then from here, you can add a little bit of height to the far end, especially if you know that coming back can be a little bit intense for you in this shape. So I'm going to add a higher setting for the back, a mid setting for the middle. And then from here, soft block right at the bottom, and we'll see how it goes. We'll start off by kneeling. And then just make sure that your bum can touch down to whatever it's using to sit down on. So in my case, it's the soft block. If this feels like not enough support, you could also sit on the edge of your bolster here. Or if you have extra props, you could bring a little more height. If you sit on the bolster, it just won't be as long for you. And then from here, the option we're taking today, more of a saddle pose, is actually going to have the knees a little further apart. So you can still keep the heels nice and close. Find something that works for your ankles. Some people roll up a little blanket under the feet as well if there's kind of a lot of pressure there. So take your time to set yourself up before you go anywhere. And if you're staying upright here, you can close down the eyes, work with your breath. If you are coming back, just come back in stages. So maybe bring the hands down behind you first and see what that feels like, see what that shift of weight feels like. And the option to maybe lower one elbow and then the other. And if it feels good to let the spine release onto your props, then go for it. Now, always mindful of what you're feeling here. Check in with the pelvis, with the low back, hips, knees, ankles, and make sure that everything feels relatively comfortable and at least not painful. Notice the quality of your breath here, and if you find the breath is feeling a little bit choppy, then that might be a sign that you should perhaps back out to a slightly more gentle version of the shape. We're here for about 3 minutes altogether, so there is the option to choose something a little more gentle to begin with, and then maybe take something a little more intense. You can also do the opposite. If you find yourself in too deep at any point, please back out. Stay with your body, stay with your experience, and stay with your breath. And I'm noticing in my body, I'm starting to feel a little pinching in my left knee. So I'm going to take that as a sign that it's time for me to come out. And you can stay for up to a minute longer, but I just want to talk about a couple of ways to come out because sometimes it can feel a little bit tricky. So one option is to come out the exact same way you came in. So coming onto the elbows, lifting the head, and then pressing one hand and then the other to come up. And from here you can release the legs. And sometimes you can feel a little bit stuck in this shape. So if coming up doesn't feel like a good option, or if it would require you to kind of twerk over to one side or something that feels kind of drastic and intense, it might be available that you can press down through the hands and then release your legs one at a time from here. So just any way you can. It's not going to be graceful. Maybe you slide one leg out and then the other, and then you end up on your back where you can pause for a moment and then eventually will come up to a seat. So listen to your body. If you need a few more breaths in the shape, then please stay. Once you do exit, see what feels good. If you're on a bunch of props, you can come off of them, maybe windshield wiper the knees, and you can also come up and do that from a seat instead if that feels better. Hmm. And so take your time, and once you have exited the shape, we will meet up in a seat so you can make your way there any way you like, maybe meeting in about 5 breaths or so. When you arrive, lengthen the spine, soften the shoulders, and pause here for a couple of breaths. Let the spine readjust. And when you're ready, take an inhale breath, circle the arms up to the ceiling, and then twist towards your right and let the fingertips land wherever they land for your twist. If you like to take the gaze over the right shoulder, go for it. We're here for about 6 or 7 breaths. Use an inhale breath to circle the arms up to reach up. And twist over towards the left, let the hands land. And set yourself here, add any support that you need. Maybe take the gaze over that left shoulder. Inhale breath, unravel to center, reach the arms up, and then release the arms down. Extend the legs and give them a little shake out, maybe a gentle windshield wiper. Awesome, and we'll come back to cross-legged if that works, but switch the cross of the legs so it's the other way around. Or if you prefer to take butterfly legs or legs extended, then go for it. We'll end with a seated meditation, so you can bring the hands anywhere that feels comfortable, lap, legs, heart. Closing down the eyes here, softening the shoulders. Notice that length through the neck, maybe a very slight tuck of the chin in towards the throat. Gently bring your attention back to the space, back to your breath. And start to find some gentle movement here. So you might roll the shoulders a couple of times. If you like a seated cat-cow, you could do a few rounds of that. And if you like to reach the arms up and find a stretch for yourself, then maybe choose that. Or maybe some gentle circles through the low back, one direction, and a few rounds, and then the other. And then come back to center, maybe bring the hands to the heart, maybe bow the chin in towards the chest. And thank you for sharing your breath and your practice. Namaste. And thank you for joining me for your yin practice today. If you have any questions, my name is Nicholas, so please reach out to me and enjoy your evening.